Over the last few years, 2.6-inch wide tires have become an extremely common size across the mountain bike spectrum, cross-country excluded, of course. Despite being so common, I hadn't ridden on this tire size until I got my 2021 Salsa Timberjack. I had heard all sorts of good things about the new size, mainly that it had the float and traction of a plus tire without being so heavy and vague on the trail. You know, all that marketing jargon you read. So now that I have a good amount of miles in on 2.6-inch tires, I want to share my thoughts on the size and compare them to the 3-inch tires I've ridden for years. My Timberjack has a Maxxis Minion DHF on the front and Maxxis Recon on the rear. The rims are 30mm wide internally, so a 2.6 is about the widest tire I'd want to use on them. Tire pressure was a little tricky for me at first. I'm over 200 pounds, so on a 2.4-inch tire, I usually run around 28 to 29 psi. Given that a 2.6 isn't that much larger, I initially ran 25 psi front and 26 in the rear. After a few rides, I quickly realized this was just too high. The ride was pretty harsh and I was washing out a little more than I'd expect. So I put up a poll on Instagram asking what pressure people were running in 2.6s and how much they weighed. I got a pretty good response and had answers from 17 psi all the way up to 27. The most common answer, though, was in the 20 to 22 psi range. So for my next couple rides, I ran 21 up front and 22 in the rear. There was a noticeable difference in ride quality and grippiness, so I think that's about the right psi for me. I've ridden several different 3-inch tires, all on 45mm internal width rims. Most of my riding has been on Maxxis Chronicles though, and theirs aren't nearly as aggressive as a DHF, but they're surprisingly grippy given the tread pattern. My go-to pressure for this size is 12 psi in the front and 13 psi in the rear, and that might seem a little too low, but it's just low enough to get maximum traction without any self-steer from the tire. So, how do the 2.6s compare to their chunky siblings? In terrain where tire flotation really matters, like sand, dirt that's turned into moon dust, and rock fields, the 3-inch tires make it a lot easier to stay on top of that loose terrain or out of the gaps in the rocks. The larger contact patch of the plus tire also distributes pressure more broadly to keep you on top of loose surfaces so you don't get as bogged down. The additional width of the tire is also able to bridge the gap between rocks and roots and has a better angle of attack, meaning those types of obstacles don't slow you down as easily. Maybe as time goes on, I'll get more comfortable with the 2.6, but right now I have a lot more confidence charging into loose, chunky rocks on a 3-inch tire. When you get into hard-packed dirt or loose over hard though, the 2.6 has the edge. The plus tire can be a bit overkill for hardpack, and so at some point the additional rolling resistance of the 3.0 hurts more than it helps. While the 3.0 will maintain momentum once up to speed, it can make sustained climbs more of a workout. However, in my case, the 2.6s I'm running are a lot more aggressive than my 3.0s, so the rolling resistance is kinda similar. Chronicles are actually a cult favorite backpacking tire because of their low rolling resistance relative to their size. If I had a more XC-oriented 2.6-inch tire, I'm sure the difference in rolling resistance would be more pronounced and the 2.6s would be even better on hardpack. In my experience, I've also found that fat and plus tires tend to lose traction more easily than a 2.6 or smaller tire in loose over hard conditions. So when you've got gravel or kitty litter sand on top of a firm surface, the narrower tires actually cut through to the hard pack, while the fat and plus tires pull all that loose stuff with them. Another thing I've noticed is that the 2.6s tend to steer more like a normal size tire when compared to the 3.0s. I'm not saying that the 3.0s or even fat bikes have slow or difficult steering, but I do think that they don't have as quick of a steering feel as narrower tires. The plus tires actually feel more stable at high speeds, while the 2.6s feel more playful and maneuverable. Yeah, a lot of this could have to do with the different geometries of the bikes and the tread patterns that I'm running these on, but I even felt this way on my Spearfish, which had XC tires and was closer in geometry to my ice cream truck. Whether the steering feeling is a bad or a good thing is totally dependent on how and what you're riding. Overall, I'm pretty content with the 2.6-inch tire size. While I would prefer to ride a plus tire 95% of the time, the 2.6 fulfills my needs the other 5% of the time without feeling like I'm on an XC race bike. There's a noticeable difference in the effort I have to put into pedaling on flats and uphill, but it still does pretty well in the loose rock gardens I tend to constantly find myself in. It's for sure a different feeling than a true plus tire, so don't expect it to check that box if you like or want a plus tire. For now, I'll be riding both sizes. The 2.6 is going to be my go-to for established trail systems with jumps and drops, while the 3.0 fills the role of my do-it-all tire for exploring and riding in sandier areas. Like I've said before though, biking isn't rocket science, so don't think too much about what you're riding, just get out there on your bike. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and show your support by sharing and subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.